don't know. I think back to the 80s, and I mean, I was in kind of elementary school and high school in the 80s, so that was when all the swag, right?
Oh.
Michael Jackson, Madonna, Duran Duran, Boy George, Culture Club. Like, I loved all of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I all my friends had the jackets with all the pins, right? That was the big thing, to have all the pins. I didn't really have that. Because we were a little poor. But and my mom like would not have really seen the point of purchasing things like that,
No.
so it wasn't something I had. But I did jealously covet other people's, and like the stickers all over the binders and stuff. But the 80s was a pretty fun time. Honestly, I think now back, and it's what I'm most nostalgic about, right? Like we even designing this podcast, it's like that was like so much. It was kind of a very eclectic kind of fun vibe, you know, and I still think about that. I love all the music, all my playlists are all 80s music, you know.
I'm
totally
movies.
Dating myself, but who cares?
My favorite movies are all 80s movies. Like
what's your favorite, like your all-time favorite movie?
My all-time favorite 80s movie is Pretty in Pink. And I have watched it probably 800 million times. Like, I love that movie. What's yours?
So I'm probably gonna blow your mind, and I never saw Pretty in Pink. Of all the 80s movies, I never saw it.
Sorry, but
I don't know why. There was because I loved Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
I liked 16 Candles sort of when it came out. It did not age well. Where Breakfast Club did age well. But I know Trevor, my husband, one of his favorite movies was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You know, I loved so many of them. You know, like it was just the time.
And it's funny because like my dad loved movies, and so he had a huge collection of cheesy 80s movies, and I would say Pretty in Pink is my all-time mainstream 80s movie. But there is something to be said about a cheesy 80s movie. And there's a movie, it's called Love Lines. And it is bad. It is so bad. I love it.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
It's bad. It's so bad. It's
it's just so bad.
Well, one of the lady or girls in it, she actually went on to play like a really big star, I think, in like General Hospital. But when you go and watch the movie, it's about kids in high school, and just there's singing in it, but the singing is bad. Like it's terrible. It's hard to find.
Oh, so, yeah.
I've tried. Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it.
No?
Yeah. But there was a lot of good stuff in the 80s.
Oh.
But, you know, I think too, I remember, I mean, we didn't have cell phones. You literally had your landline. All the things they talk about on TikTok or whatever about Gen X being feral, right?
Yeah.
Like you're out, you drinking from the hose, you're out in the morning on your little bike if you had a bike and you wouldn't come home. And we played kick the can until like after dark.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was out on the farm or in the city, it didn't matter.
No.
You had your little group of friends and you'd, you know, take your 25 cents and go to the pool, like whatever, right?
I know, it was great.
It was crazy.
I think
it was great.
You know, like you would go out, you wouldn't put your shoes on and you would just go get dirty and gross, and then you'd come in and have like a quick bath and grab something to eat, go to bed, and do it all over again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. I don't know. Like, did we spend that much time together in the 80s? Or were you with, like, everyone else?
No, well, I don't know that we lived that near each other in the 80s, really, because where were you living in the 80s? I can't remember.
We lived in Leroy, just outside of Saskatoon.
Okay, so we were in Saskatoon, but I was in like probably high school so I'd probably see you when we went to Leroy, when we went to your granny and grandpa's, or if you came into town for a family thing. But But there's just enough of an age difference, almost like, what, 8 years age difference? How old are you?
I turned 44.
There's 8 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think during the teenage years, of course, I wouldn't have hung out with some little cousin that much, right?
I think I hung out with your sister more, like, maybe, you know, like, kind of in that.
Yeah, she was just a bit younger, but yeah, I think we all kind of were together when there was like a family reunion thing, but not so much the rest of the time. And it wasn't until later, like when I was living at your granny's after I was finished high school. I was 18, and you know that, like, got engaged out there, and you ended up being a candlelighter at my wedding. Yeah, and I can't wait to dig up some pictures on that. But
we're not doing that.
We're gonna. I'm sorry, I'm very distracted today because I feel like I've got like helmet hair and it's bugging me. So
it's fine.
Can you edit that out? Make me look lovely. Thank you.
It looks good. Yeah. I remember.
What kinds of words of wisdom do we have for people?
I don't know.
You know, it's like all these people on this podcast want to hear us say something like brilliant and
well, that's
words
not going to come from me,
right? Like, get cracking.
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself? What would you like your 80s Ricki to know now?
To cherish that time, because you're a kid and you get to do whatever you want. And I think, you know, when we're kids and we're like, I can't wait to grow up, I always tell myself, like, you know, why did I say that? You know, all I wanted was to stay out as late as I wanted. I didn't want any of this other responsibilities. So I would go back and say, take your time, cherish it.
Take your time, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. For me, I was really insecure as a kid. I think by nature I was a bit charismatic, but I didn't live it that way because I also was quite insecure. So, you know, when I think what I would tell my younger self is that, you know, it's okay to be exactly who you are, you know, and that it's important to do that. And I kind of, if I look back, I wish I would have been more, I don't know, more charismatic, more of who I actually was, and really, I tried to grow up really fast. And I think a lot of kids do that, right? Doesn't matter what era they grew up in. When you're sort of that 11, I remember being 11 years old being a really tough year because there was something about being 12 that just made it more grown up, and 11 just felt like a kid. And I felt the same way at 15. I wasn't old enough to drive. I wasn't old enough to get a job. You know, like there was those sort of, I just always was pushing to get older. I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to do all those things that we saw our older cousins doing, honestly, because you're the youngest, but like, I'm sort of in the younger group of cousins, right? And so you saw what everybody else was doing and out and living life. And when you're at home or you're not appreciating it, you're just pushing forward, trying to you know, do all the things the older cousins are doing.